So hello, welcome to week 2 of our CAD and 3D printing course. As you know, I am Andrew Pham and I'm your instructor. And today I'm going to be going over some pretty fun stuff. So we're going to be doing, some learning a little bit more about constraints and being a bit more precise with our CAD. And then I'm going to teach you how to make a gear and a hair dryer, just to give you some quick demos and examples on how we can implement these different CAD tools. So yeah, this is some intermediate design skills. And so we can apply some of the stuff we learned from last week and build off on it from here. So something that I touched on a little bit last week was constraints. So I was talking a lot about how you want to have the sketch to be black and not blue, and stuff like that. And it's basically just defining or constraining your sketch before you manipulate it, like extrude it or revolve it. And that basically makes it very rigid and just it basically gives one solution instead of leaving certain ends open to interpretation. So a lot of the constraining that we were doing last week was just dimensional constraints. So you saw me, I was like setting the distance between 2 points to be, 10 millimeters, or I wanted this line to be a certain length. And that's great and all, but there are other kinds of constraints that you probably see in real life, but it's something to consider when you're CADing. And this is what we call geometric constraints. So we can use math and geometry to constrain different objects. So here's just kind of like a list of all the geometric constraints. There's like a bunch of them, as you can see. I won't go into detail onto all of them because you have the slides and you can read what they all do. But we can go straight into a demo, which is also going to be your 4th assignment. So if you go under the resources tab in the Discord, you can see I posted assignment 4. Oh, can you not hear me? Oh, okay, so most people can hear me. Hayden, I'm not sure if your speakers are off or something, but it seems like a good amount of people can hear me. Okay, well, I hope Hayden fixes that. But we're just gonna move on. So if you go in and download assignment 4, and you can open it up on Fusion, so I will do that right here. So when you go into Fusion, you can open it up. I'm just gonna go and download it real quick. So the file open. Open from my computer. And here's assignment 4. So what we're gonna do, you can see if you zoom in, there's a bunch of little tasks that you can do for the constraints. And basically what this assignment is teaching you is just kind of teaching you how to use all of them. So first of all, we need to, the worksheet should be under resources. Resources for under the Discord. I think I fixed everything from last week, so everyone should be able to see it. But to edit all these lines and circles here, you need to go in and edit the sketch. So remember, you go into the timeline, you right click it, and you can see you can edit the sketch, right? So before, remember last week we used a lot of the sketch dimension tool. So, you could like click on that line and you can like set the length and all that stuff. But over here, these little red little icons, they are all the geometric constraints. So you see here like coincident and tangent, along with stuff like parallel and perpendicular, which might make sense to a lot of you. And then the equal one is really good for making like two things the same length or the same diameter, stuff like that. The fix tool is okay, and it just kind of just solidifies the thing, but I tend to stay away from that because you can use other constraints to do it more mathematically. Midpoint is also very useful. So let's say you have like a line and you want something constrained in the middle of that line. That's what the midpoint would be. Concentric is just like concentric is just making two circles start at the same point. Sorry, someone is having trouble opening the project. So to open it, you would just go to File and Open over here, and then you would say Open from my computer, and then you would find the file in your file explorer, and then you can open it. But yeah, so these constraints are very useful when CADing stuff, because instead of using like the dimension tool and like clicking this and saying, I want this to be 90 degrees, you can just go in and say, oh, I want them to be perpendicular. So I click the perpendicular tool, I click this line, and then now automatically they're perpendicular. And you see this line is this thing is the parallel tool. So you want all three of these lines to be parallel. Just select these two, select those two, and now all three lines are parallel. And now you see whenever I try to move these points, it always maintains this parallel structure. And if you hover over them, you can see the constraint. So if you hover just the right spot, you can see those two little parallel lines. It shows that you have a geometric constraint applied. And it just really cleans up your CAD workflow instead of just having so many dimensions and stuff like that floating around. The constraint tools are really useful. So again, like the tangent over here, tangent's very useful. So you see you have this circle, but you want it to be tangent to these two lines. So you can click this circle. Oops. Selected the other one. Okay. So you can click the circle and click the line, and now you see the line is tangent. And then you can apply it to this one too, and there you go. So I don't know, I can give you maybe around like 5-10 minutes to do this. If you have any questions, just let me know. But yeah, these constraint tools are very powerful. And then you'll see that you can just kind of sprinkle it in whenever you're CADing. And you'll see it later today. Okay, so for those who are having trouble getting into the sketch, you can go down into your timeline on the bottom. And then you see this little square here is the sketch tool, or it's your sketch. You can right click it and then click edit sketch. And that should get you in there. Let's see, has anybody added music? Yay. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that audio is shared so I'm not just listening to stuff by myself. All right, and I am broke, so I don't have Spotify Premium. So if an ad plays, that is my bad.
Sometimes you gotta close the door to open a window.
I saw a photo, you look joyous. My eyes are green, I eat my veggies. I need to get her out the picture. She's really fucking up my frame. She's not developed like we are. Like magic, like magic, like magic. Whoa, magic, magic, magic. Whoa, like magic, like magic, like magic. God, magic, magic. My brother said I'm on the spectrum. Don't call me selfish, I hate sharing. This 60-40 isn't working. I want 100 of your time, your mind. Please don't leave me now. 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 Like magic, like magic. Please don't leave me now. She's gonna be dead. I just got a magic wand. We can finally be together. Roll the dice. Hit a 7, show you right. Beginner's luck. You're not my first, who gives a fuck? Your other one. Evaporate, we celebrate. You under oath. I pick a side, and if you don't, I'll pick you both. It's not a joke. Murder, she wrote. Ayo, take one look in the mirror, implications so clear. I live life with no fear, except for the idea that one day you won't be here. I will not fetch the bar, eyes are green, I eat my vegetables. It has nothing to do with that bar, but if it did, guarantee she be gone. Well, I got a plan, but the walk in the pen. If you can't understand, I'm a hawk in the gym. Eyes on the fly, got weight on my chest that I need to get off. I ain't talking to them. Can't be in the picture if it got no frame. And let the world know, cause I ain't got no shame. Blow the whole spot up, cause I wanna share last names, I wanna be your number one, not the other one. Keep it on the low, I'm in my right mind, keep it on the high, drain the shotgun, spilling feelings, now I'm out here mopping up. Foot on the floor, pack up your bags, we hit the store, grab our supplies, no need for masks, bust through the door, get the job done like retirement. I mean, you look concerned, new magic wand.
私だけをただ見つめて微笑んでるあなたそっと触れるもの求めることに夢中で運命さえまだ知らない痛いけな瞳だけどいつか気づくでしょうその背中には遥か未来目指すための羽があること残酷な天使の手で窓辺からやがて飛び立つほとばしる熱い
Okay, for the fix tool, so fix point C. Okay, for this one, so it says fix point C, and point C is right here. So I have to go into the sketch. So you see point C is here, and you have the fix tool. So you can click on the center, and then now if I try to move it, it doesn't move, right? Because it's fixed. That's what it wants you to do. Second one from the top right. Make lines horizontal. Is that what you're saying? So I think the horizontal tool is row. Okay. Oh. So dimension number 3 to 2 inches. Fix circles 1 and 2 and make 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So what this is saying is you want to make the diameter of circle 3 to 2 inches. So you can use the sketch dimension tool. So that's 2 inches, right? You want to fix circles 1 and 2. So you can use the fix tool. I'm going to fix that and fix that. And then you want to make them tangent. You want to make circle 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So take the tangent tool, and now it's tangent to there, and then it's tangent to there. For the parallel one, some people are saying that like their line is like on top of it like this. So you just want to make sure you press escape and make sure you're not using any of the tools up here. And then it should highlight the lines and allow you to drag them apart from each other. But you also want to make sure that you're in the sketch. So if you're not in the sketch, it won't allow you to edit it. So you see over here, it says finish sketch, and it's because I'm inside the sketch. But yeah, I think for the most part, all of you are understanding these different constraints. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the homework help category. That would be helpful for me so I can help you, and maybe if someone else is having the same issue, it'll be there as a resource for them later. So yeah, that was our first assignment for today. As you can see, this course kind of has a progression. We're learning a lot every day. So yeah. So going into the next assignment, we're going to be learning how to make a gear. And this is a very simple gear. And again, we don't really have dimensions for this class. Umar, you can maybe ask your question later at the end of class or in homework help. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we're gonna be doing the gear. Don't worry if you didn't finish the constraint assignment. Remember, you have all week to do this, so don't worry at all. And I can help you with it later. But I just want to make sure that we cover all the material today. So yeah, so we're gonna be doing a gear now, and we'll be using some of the tools that we just learned here in this constraint assignment. But basically, we want to start by making a new project. So you see over here, new design. It starts you out with a blank canvas. And again, like always, we want to start by making a sketch. So here, I'm going to select this plane here. It's the top plane. Gives us the top-down view of our sketch. And we first want to start by making a circle. So you see here, the majority of the gear is this circle, and then we're just going to build off of it. So we're going to take the circle tool, put it at the origin, so it's nice and constrained in the center. And today, why don't we make this gear 60 millimeters. Again, you can use whatever dimensions you like. I know a lot of you are in inches, but I just prefer millimeters. But yeah, you're free to do as you please here. So now that we have the circle, we want to start building the tooth profile. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one tooth, and then we're going to copy all the teeth. Or we're going to copy that one tooth multiple times, so you don't have to CAD every single tooth. So CAD programs are very powerful, and they allow you, or they allow you to do, or you can make the program do a lot of the heavy lifting, is what I'm saying. To make a new design, it should be in the top right with the little plus sign. But to start out, what we're going to do is we're going to use construction geometry to kind of build some kind of spatial area for our gear. So again, when you use construction geometries, they aren't factored in when you start to revolve it or extrude it or whatever. It's purely for you to, help yourself get organized, and you can constrain these construction lines to help you build your designs. So I'm just going to put a nice vertical one here, and we can build off of it. So now that we have this vertical line, I'm going to turn off construction geometry, which is this little button over here. So now it's not blue. I'm going to build out slightly, and then I'm just going to drag this all the way down. And you see these lines are blue again. We want to constrain it. So actually here, I'm going to show you this. So let's say, so you see when we make new lines, it kind of snaps automatically. So this will automatically apply a constraint for you. But let's say you just kind of messed up and you're lazy and you just like clicked it over here and clicked it over there. This is when you want to use your constraints, right? So here we want this to be perpendicular to that. So we're going to use the perpendicular constraint, and you see now it's nice perpendicular. So for here, we want to set a nice angle to make sure this tooth profile is what we want. So I can use the sketch dimension tool again. I selected this horizontal line and then this diagonal line. And you see it allows me to set the angle. So I'm just going to say 100 degrees today because that's what I feel like doing. And then our final constraint here is our vertical constraint. So you see dimensioning this line, get 50. So we see here, oh, we also need to constrain this. So this blue line is not constrained. Okay, I'll help with the construction line in a second. So we constrain this like 10. For construction lines, over here on the right in your sketch palette, you can specify the line type, and that's where construction is. And again, for dimensions in this class, most of our assignments don't have specified dimensions. I'd say the only assignment with specified dimensions is going to be your homework for this week, but everything else is very loose, so you can be creative as long as you follow the grading rubric. But yeah, if this kind of area is hidden for you, sometimes it's hidden like this. So you want to just make sure you click on these two little arrows here to open the pop-up menu. But yeah, so now you see this is kind of like half a tooth, right? So again, we can use Fusion to our advantage and we can make it do work for us. So what we can do is we can mirror this over an axis. So over here, we have the mirror tool. And so you want to select, you first select the things you want to mirror, right? So in this case, I want to mirror this horizontal line and this angled line right here. And then you select, after that, you select the mirror line and you want to select this spot where it mirrors. So you select here. And in this case, I'm going to be using this construction line here, right? And you see, it'll give you a preview. You see kind of like how this tooth is mirrored now. Now you have a full tooth. And now what we can do, to me, this tooth looks a little bit big, right? So you can go back and edit all these constraints. So let's say I wanted this to be 7 millimeters instead of 10. Now it's skinnier, right? Or if I wanted a more aggressive angle or a more shallow angle, depending on what you see it as, like you can change this, right? So now we have one tooth. And now, again, we can use Fusion and be lazy, but also smart because it allows us to edit all the teeth at the same time. I'll show you later. But yeah, so now we have a tooth and we're going to make more teeth. So under the create on the top left, you can see there's the circular pattern tool. And this will allow us to duplicate the teeth. So under objects here, again, we want to select the lines that we want to duplicate. So I'm going to select all 4 of these. The center point is, where the center of rotation is. Click the select button at the center. And you see now it will start to build more triangle or more teeth for me. So here, let's say I want more teeth. So we can increase the number of teeth. See, that's 4 teeth, 5, and 6. So 6 there's kind of a lot of teeth here, but now they're starting to overlap. So we're gonna need to make edits to make this better. So for me, I'm just gonna say 7 teeth. You can say as many teeth as you want, as long as it is more than one. You select OK, and it creates all these teeth for you. But yeah, you see here, all these teeth are overlapping, and let's say we didn't really want that. So now what we can do is we can go back to the original tooth and we can change stuff. So maybe change this back to 100, and now you see it changed all of the teeth. So that's what's very powerful about CAD. If you can make sure you constrain your things well and define things well, you can make it very easy to edit later, because what these tools are basically doing is they're adding all these constraints for you. So they're saying, oh, these two lines are equal to each other, and oh, like this line is perpendicular and stuff like that, right? And it's doing that automatically, but for the first one, you have to do it yourself. But once you do it, it makes it really easy to edit and change later on. Let me try to change the angle between the points where the teeth merge so we can divide it evenly. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. Dividing what evenly? And to mirror, the mirror tool is right next to the dimension tool here. Yeah, I'm not really sure what you're asking there. Changing the angle between points. Yeah, I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. But yeah, so now we have kind of like our basic tooth profile and the gear, and change the angle between the same. I'm still kind of unsure of what you're saying. Do you maybe want to ask me this after class so maybe I can be more specific, because it's kind of hard for me to understand by just reading. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so now we have this profile of the gear, and what we can do is we can extrude it just like we've been extruding all our other parts. So we finished the sketch there, and we use the extrude tool. And now you notice it's not automatically extruding it for us, and it's because there's multiple closed bodies. So you see everything is fully defined, which is good, but there's multiple closed bodies. So you see here, you have to specify which ones you want to extrude. So first start with the center, maybe like 10 for now, just so you can see. So you see it only would extrude the center, but you need to make sure you select all of them. So here, I'm gonna go around selecting all the teeth and then press OK. And there you go. Now you have a basic gear for you. Does that make sense? Is there anyone having trouble? I saw some people we're trying to find the mirror tool. Go back into the sketch. So the mirror tool is over here. And you just want to make sure you select the things you want to mirror, and then the line at which it mirrors from. And then the circular pattern tool is the same, but instead of the line at which you want it to mirror, you want to specify the point that you're going to spin everything around. Is everyone doing good though? I mean, I don't really see any, I don't see a lot of questions, so I'm guessing everyone's getting this. But again, I can't really tell. Okay. I'm just gonna assume everyone's doing okay because not many of you are asking questions. Where did my mouse go? Okay. So we're gonna just continue on with this. So now that we have our gear, we want to make a hole in the center, right? Over here. So what your first line of thinking might be is to, make a sketch and then use the extrude tool to cut it out. But that's actually not the best practice. And the reason why is because there's a hole tool. And the difference between the hole tool and just like a negative extrusion is that it will specify what kind of hole it is. And for someone just CADing a 3D model, it may not seem important, but if you want to go and make these models into something, like a physical product, you want to have as much information as possible for the person machining it, right? So a negative extrusion doesn't really have a lot of information. They just see that there's a hole there. But if you use the hole tool, you can specify like the way you want the hole drilled and stuff like that. And the cool thing about Fusion is that you can use Fusion and its tools under the manufacturing tab. I don't really go too far deep into this, but you can use Fusion to kind of program machines to make the parts for you. It's called CNC machining. So specifying the kind of hole is important for creating the programs to machine your parts. So that's why it's important. But to make one, you just click the hole tool and then you choose the placement. I'm just going to click the center because that's where I want the hole. And you see here, it will give you a lot of different variables and things that you can change about your hole. So, I mean, the first one is just like a standard hole. It's just random hole. But, there's counterbore and countersink, and you can see that it changes it just slightly, right? It'll give you different properties. So let's say you have like a certain screw and you want it to be very flush. You can use like a countersink screw or countersink bolt. And you can use this tool to specify that stuff. But for us, it's just going to be very simple. for us, we just want it to go through the whole thing. So I'm just going to specify it as all, and then specify the diameter. So let's say I want this hole to be 30 millimeters. And you just press OK, and now you have a hole. So now that you have a hole, we want to make some threads. So, oops. So you see here in this photo, you see the little lines there, they're little threads. So if you have a bolt, you can thread into it, secure your part. So you have to use an existing hole to create threads. So I believe over here, there it is. So the thread tool. And this is why the hole tool is important, because you need a hole made by the hole tool to create threads. So again, under create thread, I'm gonna select the hole, the face inside the hole, and then it will automatically give me some threads that I could use. So in this case, it's saying, you know, you can use an M30 by 3.5 or, you know, M30 by 1. And those are just all the different thread types that you can choose for a hole like this. But yeah, Fusion's really good about this because it's super convenient. Instead of having to do all of this manually, it will do it for you. You can just say, oh, I want this kind of bolt to fit in here, and then it'll make the threads for you. So once you specify, you can just press OK. And now we have threads. So if I zoom in, you can see it's not a flat surface anymore. And if we go under the timeline, you can kind of roll it back. You see this is the before, it's just a hole. And then the after, now it has threads. And then this is why when we ask you to submit your homework assignments that you take a photo of your timeline, because it allows us to see kind of your CAD process. And for things like this, there are very specific ways we would like you to do things. So like for the thread in the hole, you want to make sure you're using the hole tool and using the thread tool, and the timeline will show that, because each little operation has its own special icon, and we can see through the progression that you use the correct ones when you submit your homework. But yeah, that's the gear. I believe that's assignment 5. Just gonna save this one. We're here, press save. Yeah. And there you go. Does anyone have any questions about this? I know I'm moving a little bit fast today. I just want to make sure I get through everything, and then we can just go through any questions that you may have. So I think I'm going to give you guys maybe like nice 10 minutes work through this gear if you haven't already. If you have, great. If not, don't worry. How to add songs on Spotify? Not exactly a CAD question. But you should be able to just click on the link and then I think you have to like the playlist or something. And then when you find a song that you like, there's this little 3 dots on the side, and then it'll allow you to add it to a playlist. You can add it. Okay, can you tell me how I can mirror the side of the cog onto the circle? I don't care about dimensions. No, I don't care about number of teeth, as long as you have more than one. Mirror the side of the cog onto the circle. So I'm just gonna make another circle over here for those who may be having trouble. Okay. So I have my circle, right? I'm gonna make a construction line here. Construction is on the right side. Make a vertical line here. I'm gonna press escape. I'm gonna turn off construction. I'm gonna make another line. Horizontal, then down. And I'm gonna just dimension these to make sure they're constrained. So to mirror, I'm gonna click the mirror tool up here. And then objects are the ones you want to mirror. Right? So we're gonna click on these 2 lines here. And then we have to select the mirror line. So you need to make sure you change from object selection to mirror line selection, right? So you're gonna click this button over here right next to mirror line. And now you can select the line that you're mirroring it from. So if you click on it, then it should start to specify or start to show the tooth. Okay. So then once you have that, you want to duplicate the teeth, right? So we're going to go under create and then circular pattern. Repeat how you do construction line? Yeah, sure. So this line here, you can do it in multiple ways, right? So what I like to do is I like to select construction over here when I click on the line tool, right? And then when I draw a line, you see it's dashed and not like solid, right? Because when you make like a regular line, it's just solid. So that's how you know it's a construction line. Another way you can do it is you can just draw the line like normal, and you can right click the line and you can change it right here, normal for construction. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Going back to the circular pattern, so you want to duplicate the teeth, you go under create, right? And then under this mirror thing, there's circular pattern. So you click on that. And again, just like the mirror tool, you need to select the objects you want to mirror. So I want to mirror these 4 lines. And then you need to change the selection from object selection to center point selection. So you click this to change to center point selection. And then in this case, I want to select the center of the circle because that's where all the teeth are turning around from. Yeah. So technically, this is acceptable technically. To make it 3D, right? You want to press the extrude button, right? So if you click the extrude button, it will take you to an option like this. And then you need to specify which closed bodies that you want to extrude, right? To make it 3D. So you click on the circle and all the teeth you have, and then you specify the distance over here. So how much you want to make it 3D. Okay, so when you click the extrude button, yeah, so instead of doing the distance first,
and you can save time by personalizing your search
great,
by monthly
love
pay.
ads. So instead of setting the distance first, because when you press enter on the distance, then it will just kind of create your extrusion. What you want to do is you want to select the profiles first. So you click on profiles right here, and then you click on the things you want to be extruded, and then you change the distance. For construction lines, I can show that again. So, oh, you did? Okay, cool. But for those who don't know, if you want to turn an existing line into a construction line or the other way around, you can right click it and change it by clicking the normal / construction button, and then it'll change it. And then to change it back, you just do it again. Okay. Everybody doing okay? Yes, you can also click X. That's true. All right, so it seems like everyone's doing good. So I'm gonna move on to our final demo for today, and then the rest of the time I can just kind of spend helping anyone who might be having some trouble, because these assignments are definitely more advanced than last week's assignments. But yeah, assignment 6 is the hair dryer. So there's many ways you can CAD, but we're just, in this case, we just want to show you a new method on how you can do things. Oh, oops. Personally, like I really like the revolve tool, so I would probably like revolve the hair dryer. But again, you just want to be able to, you just want to know these tools to have it in your pocket for whenever you might need it. So the loft tool will connect multiple profiles and different planes, and it'll make a solid body from these profiles. So as you can see on the left here, there's these 4 circles and they're all on different planes, right? But then when you use the loft tool, it will connect all of these circles with a nice smooth line, and then it creates a solid body around it. So that's a little bit of what we're going to be doing for this assignment. So again, to make a new project or a new design, we're going to go up here on the top right. There's this little plus button, just like a new tab on like Google Chrome or something, right? But yeah, now we can start making the hair dryer. So if we look back, you can see all these little orange squares, and each one of these orange squares is a plane. So when we've been creating sketches, I'm just going to click here. You've gotten familiar with these 3 planes, right? And it's just kind of the planes from the origin, right? The XZ plane, the XY plane, and the YZ plane, right? But you can actually make your own planes on top of that to make your own geometries. And to do that, you can see here, normally we would create a sketch, but if we go farther on the right, there's this construct feature, right? And then it will give you a drop down of a bunch of different options. A lot of them you're probably not really going to use for the most part. I'd say the top 4 are the most popular. So, offset plane, you can just take like an existing plane or a surface and then make a new plane on top of it or below it, right? A plane at an angle will just, make another plane at an angle to the current plane or surface that you're working with. And tangent is good for like making a plane on the side of a circle. And then the mid plane is good for making a plane in between 2 surfaces or 2 planes. But today we're mostly just going to work with the offset plane, right? So we're just going to click on the tool, right? And again, here it's asking you to select a plane, and this is the plane you want to offset your new plane from. So in this case, I want to offset it from the top plane, right? So I'm going to click on this one right here. And then it will allow me to specify the distance of how far you want to offset the plane. So let's say I want this first plane to be 5 millimeters away from the original plane, right? Let's change it to 15, because why not? If you press OK, now we have this plane, and you see this gray area is just kind of like the floor, and you see it's kind of like floating, right? Especially right here, you can see it's floating. That shows that this plane is like 15 millimeters away from the original one. And if you want, you can even like make this plane look bigger, right? Kind of stretch it out so you can see it better. But now we want to make 2 more, right? So we can do it again. Offset this plane I'm going to change this one. I'm going to do 60, right? And then let's say for the center one, let's say we want, you know, a plane in the middle of two planes, right? So you have to select two planes. So I'm going to select these two, right? And then it'll create a plane in between. So that's just kind of going over how to use these different tools. They all do the same thing in the end. They make a new plane, but there's different ways to go about doing it. But now that we have these three planes and of course the plane from the origin, we can start to create the little body of our hair dryer. So now we're going to start making sketches, right? So now when you press create sketch, we have many more options on where we can start drawing it. But what we're going to do is we're going to just start on the bottom here. And then if these planes are bothering you, I believe, yeah, you can go under here. You can kind of hide the planes from your view. I not do it right. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay, so under construction is where you can show and hide the planes. But yeah, so we're going to first start by making another circle. Let's say we want our circle to be 80 millimeters. And then we're going to just press finish sketch. And notice how we're not going to extrude or anything. We're going to start. Oh, that was a bit too big. I'm going to change this real quick. Okay. So now we have one circle, but now we want to make more. So instead of extruding it, we're going to make another sketch. And I'm going to unhide the planes over here, right? So the next plane that we're going to work with is this one. I'm going to click on it. And now I'm going to draw another circle. And this circle, I want this one to be a little bit bigger. So why don't we go like 80? And if you see, if you rotate it, these two circles are not on the same plane, right? From the top view, it may look like it, but when you start moving it in 3D, you can see that one circle is higher than the other one. And that's what we want. So now that we have that, I'm going to finish the sketch again, and then we're going to do it a couple more times. Oh, my mouse is like breaking. So next plane, I'm going to make it viewable. I'm going to make another circle. This one, I want it to be slightly smaller, so maybe let's go like 60, right? And finish this one. And then for good measure, I'm going to do one more up here. I'm going to make this one. Why don't we make it 50? So now you see we have 4 circles and they're all kind of in their own space. But now we want to make a solid body out of that. So what we're going to do is create a loft. And what the loft will do, you can see when you hover over it, it will create a really smooth transition from one sketch to another. right? So in this case, they're all circles, but you can do many different shapes. It'll like smoothly transition, you see in this photo, circle to a square. But we're going to use this loft tool to create our hairdryer body. And again, just like with all the extrudes and other things, it'll ask you to specify the different parameters. So in this case, the profiles that we want to specify are all the circles, right? So I'm going to click on all the circles, right? Oh, that was not the right order. There we go. And you see, now that we have a preview, we kind of have an idea of what the hairdryer looks like. I just pressed OK, and now we have a goofy looking hairdryer body. But that's pretty good. Does that make sense? Mouse is like freaking out. Will they immediately be concentric, or will we have to account for that when constructing the planes? Okay, that is a good point. So the reason why all of these are in a nice straight line is because I drew all my sketches with the circles kind of at like the origin, right? And so they kind of just automatically are in this case. But if you ended up drawing the circle, say, if I edit the sketch, right? I delete this, and I deleted the constraint, the coincident constraint with the origin, right? So now you see this hairdryer looks all wonky now, and it's because they weren't quite lined up. So you want to make sure when you're in your sketches, you want to make sure that you know where all of the other sketches are in space. Does that make sense? Did that answer your question? Okay, cool. But yeah, so now we have this nice hairdryer body. This one's kind of flat, but it's okay. But we want to make this hollow, kind of like a vase, right? And you can do that in many ways. So again, if you wanted to, you could have, made a sketch, and then you could have drawn like a really skinny profile of what you wanted this hairdryer to be. But you can also do it this way. And the way that we're going to make it hollow is by using the shell tool. So we've been working a lot with these tools over here on the left, but if you go closer to the center, there's this tool called the shell tool, right? So you want to click on that, and it'll allow you to kind of carve out the inside of what you're making. So in this case, it will kind of make it like a vase. So if we use the shell tool and we click on this top face, right, it will hollow out everything and it will leave the outside. So if I click on this, right, and I specify the thickness. So let's say I want the thickness of like this little of the wall to be like 4 millimeters, right? Then it will hollow out everything, but it will leave 4 millimeters at every spot. So this is really good. And like, let's say you're designing like a vase, the shell tool is just perfect for vases because, it's nice and uniform, like all the, sorry, my mouse is acting up. But it creates a nice uniform cut of the inside without you having to do a lot of work, which is very nice. Another cool thing about the shell tool is if you select like two adjacent sides, it should, is it broken? Here, cancel it. I'm pretty sure you can select two sides and then it will make it kind of like a tube. I mean, and this isn't probably the best example of this. I can show it another time. Man, I need to get a new mouse. This thing's like crapping out. That's awesome. Okay. So here, we had a nice shell. We're just going to click OK. And now you see it's nice and hollow. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. I'm going to assume it is because no one's saying anything. But yeah, so now we have a nice hollow body for our hair dryer. But now we kind of want to make a handle for it, don't we? So what we can do is we can make another plane. So over here, this mouse. If we go back into the sketch, right, we can see that the diameter is 80 millimeters. For you, it might be different. But now we can make another offset plane. Make sure you actually show the planes. That's kind of useful. So now I'm going to choose a plane that's perpendicular to all the other planes that we were working with. So I'm going to just choose this one. And so our diameter of our largest circle was 80, right? But the radius is half of that. And again, you can use math, or you can make Fusion do the math for you. So in this case, I told it to do 80 divided by 2, but you can have it do a lot more than that if you wanted to. But now you see we have this little plane over here, and it's just barely touching the hairdryer body, and that's good. So now what we want to do is we want to make a handle. So we're going to start with a sketch. We're going to select the new plane that we just made. And now we're going to start making our handle. So over here, just going to draw a circle. And let's just say I wanted this circle to be, 20 centimeters is good. For the diameter, let's say 40. A bit much. How about 25? So again, just like normal, we have another sketch, and then we're going to extrude it like we've been doing with a bunch of other ones. Specify the distance, let's say 60, maybe more, 80. And you see here, we're starting to run into some slight issues, right? So I'm going to make sure the operation is joined, so it's all one piece. But you see there's like this gap here, right? And, that doesn't seem right. In reality, you don't want that gap to be there. And what we've been doing with our extrudes is we're just extruding it one way, right? So the direction is one side. But if you want, you can make it go both ways, right? Two sides. So our first side is 80 millimeters. But for the other way, we can change it to two object, right? And now it will stop flush on the outside of the vase. I'm not the vase, the hair dryer. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna assume it is because no one's saying anything. But again, under the operation, you want to make sure it's specified as joined. So it combines both the handle and the body of the hair dryer to be one piece. And then there you go. You have a nice hair dryer handle. Does that make sense to everyone? Do you need some time to catch up? The last part about joining. Yeah, sure. So when you make an extrusion with multiple features like this, you want to specify what kind of extrusion you want. Like if you want it to be a separate piece or if you want it to be all the same. And then when you have pieces like this that kind of run into each other, specifying it as a join would kind of merge the pieces together, if that makes sense. But if you did like a new body, it would kind of separate them into two pieces. But joining them creates one body. And you can see it at the bottom of the extrude feature. Does that make sense? Very cool. Circles. Okay, I'm just gonna launch a poll just to kind of understand where everyone's at, because it's kind of hard for me to tell. Seems like most of you are doing pretty good. You have 3 people who aren't quite caught up. But we're doing pretty good on time, so I think we can help these people out. But nice. Okay. Okay, so for the join thing, when you extrude it, right? The join features on the bottom, you're gonna have to scroll when you, especially when you have like two sides as the direction. But the join will make this like cylinder and this like hairdryer body into one piece. Does that make sense, Nora? How the planes are made one above another. Okay, so if we roll back, right, the timeline. Okay, yeah. So to make the offset planes, you have to go under construct and then offset plane. And then you want to select the plane that you're offsetting from. So let's say like, I don't know if you can see me, but let's say like this piece of wood is like the plane that you want to offset it from. If you select it, right, and then you specify a distance, it'll just tell you like how far away you want those planes to be. So by selecting that plane and then specifying the distance, right, over here on the right, you can see that this plane is like 30 millimeters away. Does that make sense? Ben, I might need to see your screen in a little bit. Maybe we can do that after class. We're starting to run short on time, so I think I'm just gonna continue and help some of these people after class. Here, I'm gonna roll the timeline forward again. Cool. So most of you have this hair dryer by now, and what we want to do now that we have this hair dryer body is we want to make the wire, right? So we're going to do that with a sweep, and a sweep is basically you basically have two different sketches, and one sketch will be your profile, and then the other is going to be your path. So the profile sketch is the sketch that will follow the path to create a solid body. So to do that, I want this line to be centered on this handle, right? So I'm gonna first start by making the profile sketch, right? So I'm gonna create a new sketch, select the face of the handle, then I'm gonna draw a nice circle in the center. Gonna give it a nice dimension. Let's just say 10 millimeters for now. Finish sketch. And now we have the beginning of our wire. So basically, how this works is you're gonna use another sketch to specify the direction and path that you want this circle to follow, right? So we're going to create another sketch. This time, I'm going to choose this plane over here. And notice how this plane cuts the hair dryer in half, you see, right? So that's good because it'll be centered on this circle. But something that we want to do in a lot of cases is we want to reference existing geometry, right? So we want to reference this circle here so we can find the center. And the way we can do that is we go under create, I believe, project. Oh yeah, so you see here, there's the project tool. And basically what it will allow you to do is it will allow you to reference geometries from existing bodies or sketches, right? So in this case, I want to project this circle onto the sketch. So you see, from this perspective, it's a circle, but because we're sketching on this plane, the circle is basically a line, right? And we want to find the center of it to have the wire come off. So what we can do is we can project this circle by selecting the edge right here, and we can project it onto our sketch. So if you just click OK, I'm gonna hide this body for a second. You can see this purple line, right? That purple line is the line that we projected from the end of this handle, and we can reference that to make our wire. So now we can draw our wire, and what we can do, what I want to do before this, I want to make sure this projected line is construction, so it won't be referenced when making a spline. So if you see, I clicked on the line over here, it's construction, and click construction, and now it's a dashed line. That's what we want. So I'm going to start by making a line, kind of having it stick out like that, and maybe we want to make the wire a little bit curvy, right? I mean, no wire is perfectly straight, so I'm going to just use an arc tool. Maybe no. I'm just going to be super random with my wires, and I'm going to show you why you can do this, because we can fix it later, which is awesome. I'm just going to make another line. And you see all these lines, there's some really sharp corners, right? It's not very smooth. And this is where you can use your constraints, right? So we can make, for starters, this wire should probably come off perpendicular from the hair dryer, right? So we can use perpendicular tool right here. And then how about we make these two tangent? And you see now it's nice and smooth, right? And we can do the same with these two, clicking that and here. And now this wire or this path is nice and continuous with no weird sharp angles, right? And we can even play around with it a little bit. Bend these the way we want it. But let's just say that's kind of how we like it, right? I'm just gonna fix this end just because. But yeah, let's say this is the path we want our wire to take. So what we can do is we can press finish sketch, and you see this wire is just kind of floating about, but it has no width, right? It's just a path. But that's when we use the profile and we can project it onto the path. So under the create tool above the loft, there's the sweep tool, right? And there's the profile and the path, right? So the profile, like I said, is this circle, right? This is the thing that we're going to be projecting onto the path. And the path is this squiggly line we made. If you click on it, there you go. Now you see this wire has some width and it's a body now. And in this case, just like before, you can specify what kind of operation. In this case, I want it to be joined again with this hair dryer body. But if you wanted it to be separate, you could do like a new body or something. But in this case, I'm just doing join, and I'm going to press OK. And there we go. Now we have our little wire for our hair dryer. But to wrap up this little hair dryer, you can see that there's a bunch of little sharp corners, right? And that could cut someone. So for a lot of things, we want to kind of round it off or make it a little bit less aggressive. And one way we can do that is adding fillets and chamfers. So a fillet will make it nice and round. So let's say for the end of this hair dryer, you can click the fillet tool, select the edge that you want to be rounded, and then you can specify how round. So let's say like 3, and you see it's really nice and round. It's not going to cut anyone. If you do it less, like 2, you see it's still round, but it doesn't go as deep. But let's say I like that, so let's leave it at that. You see it's nice and round, won't kill anybody. But the other one is a chamfer, and for the most part, when people add chamfers, it's just going to be at 45 degrees, which is pretty standard. So let's say I want to chamfer this side, right? It'll ask you how much you want to chamfer it. Say you want to do 3 millimeters, right? And you see it's not round, but they just kind of take a nice angle off of it, if that makes sense. But yeah, so that's a chamfer. You typically want to do these operations at the end of your CAD design, because it makes it a lot easier to edit your other sketches later. So let's say like when I was like projecting the line for the profile, or I mean the path, not having this chamfer made it so it was a bit more clear, right? There's like less options and less complexity on the ends. So I like to put all of these, like the chamfers and the fillets at the end, because it just kind of cleans up and dresses up your part. But it makes it a lot easier to edit if you have all your major operations and things like that beforehand, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's basically the end of this assignment. And we're basically at the end of today. But your homework for today is this extrusion profile, and it's mainly work on kind of strengthening your skills to use geometric constraints. So what we really want to see for this assignment is we want to see you use these dimensions. So this is the only assignment that we're going to ask you to use dimensions on. But we don't want to see these dimensions more than once. So you see on this profile, like these are, it's like a symmetrical shape, right? And the person who designed it only had to use these few measurements, and then they have a little bit of notes over here, but for the most part you want to stick to these measurements, and you want to make sure you use geometric constraints and things like the circular pattern tool to create a really clean sketch. So for this homework, I ask that you submit a photo of your sketch that's opened, so I can see the dimensions and see that everything is fully constrained. So to get full points on this, all the lines should be black, none of them should be blue. And you want to use your geometric constraints to not clutter up your sketch with a bunch of dimensional constraints. So you can see that, like, because it's symmetrical, like things like this line here and this line here, they're both the same. So you can use like the equal constraint to make sure that they're the same length without having to specify both of them to 1.6 with the dimension tool. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, you just want to make sure you use those geometric constraints. No, you should not, like this should not you should not need the fix tool to make this work. Yeah, please do not use the fix tool on this assignment. Because all the other constraints should get you there. Yeah, you don't need to extrude this homework assignment because I just want to see the sketch. So please leave the sketch open. So for like this, I want to see the sketch open. So you would like click edit sketch, right? And then it would see, you would see this. You see these lines are blue. So for the homework assignment, I don't want to see that. And do not use the fix constraint to make them black, please. Does that make sense? Oh, it makes them green. So even if you did do it, then it would just be green. So I would know. But yeah, other than that, we are pretty much done for the day. I know some people have some questions about these homework assignments. So feel free to stick around after class and we can sort it out. If not, we have you know, the Discord channel to help you out if you have to leave now. But other than that, thank you again for tuning in. And yeah, just let me know if you need help.